The scripture reads, "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, every man according to his own ability. And straightway he took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same and made 5 more talents." Right? So he was productive. His master gave him 5. He went out and got 5 more. And likewise, he that had received 2, he also gained 2 more. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and reckoneth with them. Or, he held them accountable. Hey, what have y'all been doing since I've been gone with my resources, right? Verse 20, "And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought 5 more, saying, Lord, you gave me 5 talents, and behold, I have gained thee 5 more talents. His Lord said unto him, Listen, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord." I'm going to stop right there. If we know the story, this is the famous parable of the talents. The master, he does the same thing with the guy who had 2 talents. And the guy with 2 talents says, hey, you gave me 2 and I doubled that. I was productive with it. Here's 4, right? The guy who had 1 talent is what the story really focuses on, because as we see from the scripture and as we just read, he hid his talent. He didn't do anything with his master's resources. He was unfruitful and unproductive with his master's resources, and the master does not take too kindly to that. But why? It's a slap in the face that God has gifted you. God has gifted me with resources, with time, with talents, with treasures. And if we sit on those things, if we don't take what he's given us and make the most out of it, maximize it, be productive with it, if we have this lazy spirit, that shows a lack of gratitude. It shows a lack of appreciation, for your master's goods. It shows a lack of stewardship. God is looking for productivity out of our lives. God is looking for us to maximize our lives. Every one of us has been given a certain level of talent, a certain level of time, and a certain level of treasures. What are you doing with it? That's my question for you today. What are you doing with that time, that talent, that treasure? He says something very key that we should hone in on. He says, you have been faithful over a few things, so I'll make you ruler over many. See, a lot of us, I believe we want this, especially in this social media culture that we live in, where we compare ourselves. I'm guilty of it too, y'all. Where we compare ourselves to others. Like take me, for example. I'm like, man, I got 500 followers. And I'm looking at this dude over here. Man, he got 500,000 followers. Like, wow, my little 500 ain't nothing. That's crazy. The question is, are you being faithful with that 500 that you have? If you're not being faithful with the 500, why would God entrust you with more? And see, a lot of times we just, because of the comparison, we think it's insignificant, the influence that we have. I'm a youth pastor, by the way. And so on Wednesdays, I go to the church and, I pour into the youth. I give them, a word from the Lord. We talk, what have you. And this last week, the last 2 weeks, only one child, the same child, has showed up to youth service. And if I had this spirit of comparison, if I had this, man, always looking out to somebody else's ministry, man, that person, his youth ministry has 100 kids. That youth ministry has 200 kids, and I'm human. So those thoughts, those seep into my brain like, man, I got to get more kids. How can I get more youth? And God began to speak to me. Yo, be faithful with that one that's coming. And if you're faithful with the one, I know I can trust you to be faithful with 1,000, 100,000, 1 million. And here's one last thing I want to key in on. Frederick Douglass learned how to read by trading food that he would have with poor white kids, right? So poor white kids in his community would teach him how to read in exchange for bread. Somebody else who had a hand in teaching Frederick Douglass how to read, was his slave master's wife. Before her husband found out, what she was doing and told her and commanded her to stop, she was teaching Fred how to read. She was teaching him how to sound out words. Why am I bringing that up? Because little did they know that by impacting this one little slave boy, that would have a domino effect into that little slave boy impacting thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. What am I saying? You never know that by touching one. See, a lot of us want these big influential platforms, and that's cool, but focus on impacting one. Focus on influencing one. Why? Because that one that you influence could go out and influence thousands. But it would have started with you. It's your boy Randy. If you like what you heard, subscribe. Are you being faithful with your time, talents, and treasure? And are you being faithful over a few that you might be, that might be under your influence in your little sphere of influence? Are you being faithful with that? Or is this social media driven culture causing you to look elsewhere at people with bigger platforms, and you're not seeing the blessing that you have with your small platform? No platform is small. We're impacting souls. If this soul's being impacted by your ministry, that's large in the eyes of God. We got to start looking at it in that context. It's your boy Randy. If you like what you heard, subscribe. And remember, if words can hurt, words can heal. I'm gone.